All right, welcome to part 3. Let's dive into sales in earnest. The first thing I want to talk about before we talk about techniques is to get into funnel building and in and around sales strategy. So this is what we'll be focusing in this video, mapping out your sales strategy, all of the different funnels, what channels do you use, how do you do copywriting, those kind of things. So the first thing to know about a funnel, if you haven't heard of the term or if you're not familiar with it, is a funnel is basically the concept where if you visualize it for each stage, as your prospect comes to you, there will be a certain subset of them that will convert and some of them that don't. So an example of a funnel could be, let's say, if you're cold calling, you make a certain number of phone calls. So let's say 45 in this example. Some of them lead to an appointment, and then some fewer then lead to you actually pitching that your product or service. And then a fewer then lead to a proposal, and then finally you close some of them. Let's say even a retail example, it could be a number of people who walk in front of your store, and then less so number of people who stop in front of your store, and then number of people who walk into your store, a number of people who interact with a product, a number of people who speak to a sales rep, and a number of people who check out at the checkout counter, right? If it's an email funnel, it could be number of emails sent, number of emails opened, a number of click-throughs to your links or your landing pages, a number of people who sign up, right? So basically a funnel applies to any process or any step where your customer takes in order to convert. And it's helpful to understand a funnel for a few reasons. So one is you can start to, once you know kind of the steps, you can start to optimize them. You can see, okay, where are people dropping off? Are a lot of people, let's say, stopping in front of my store, but none of them coming in? Why, right? So you can start to try to fix the problem. Or number two, if people are stuck at a stage of a funnel for too long, then you can try to shorten the time that they're in a funnel with different campaigns, different activities. The challenge with a process-driven funnel is, in my opinion, is that it assumes that you have already found the specific course of actions or specific series of steps that a customer will take in order to convert. So the caveat before you start to optimize individual funnels like the ones that you see over here is that you should first have multiple funnels so that you are able to convert people in different ways. And then you can optimize these specific funnels once you know what works best. Make sense? So sales strategy, on the other hand, needs to be a bit more comprehensive because obviously you are going to be building many different funnels because not everyone is going to buy your product through the same series of steps. Some people will, want to read a review on Google. Some people come in through a referral. Some people want to speak to a sales rep. Some people want to have a demo of the product before they're ready to buy. Everyone is different. So if you have only one funnel, then you are actually missing out on a lot of opportunities. And as a matter of fact, I don't even think there's a good way to convert just purely based on a singular funnel. So quickly to talk a bit about funnel leak, because we've alluded to this, and then I'll go into the strategies in a second. So funnel leak, as you have those funnels, as you identify them, I talked a bit about the poor conversion or people dropping off. And the second one is slow to convert. They're stuck in a certain stage for some amount of time. What you want to do to try to reduce that leak then is, because people are dropping out of the funnel, you are trying to figure out, how can I get people back into the funnel? So an example there is, let's say, for example, if a lot of people come to your website, but then they don't visit your product page. If you're able to capture that information through, let's say, some tool like a CRM tool, and you have their email, then maybe you can give or serve them ads. Because if you're familiar with for ads and how they work, you can target your ads at customers because when people visit a certain website, there's a cache on their computer, and that actually indicates and tracks their behavior. So you can advertise based on that. That's why if you don't already notice, you may find that once you've been to, let's say, a certain company's website, you'll notice that their ads appear everywhere on your newsfeed, on like LinkedIn, on like Facebook, on Instagram. That's because these companies are doing this retargeting kind of things. So, same applies for other things. So let's say, for example, if you add something to your shopping cart, but you didn't check out, and they may send you an email saying, hey, you notice you've left something in your shopping cart. That's another effort or another form of retargeting as well, right? So, if people are dropping off your funnel, either you can fix that because maybe there's something wrong with that certain stage or step, or you can retarget the people who were lost or you can try to shorten the amount of time they spend in that stage. So we've talked a bit about this before when we were covering understanding the marketing side of things. I just want to quickly show this to you again so that you're cognizant and aware. And really the start of building a sales or marketing strategy is really understanding the user perspective, the customer's journey through how they buy your product or services. And it's not just a customer, but customers, right? So what are the kind of questions they're asking when they're trying to become aware of the problem? How do they start to look at the solution? How do they evaluate vendors against each other? And then lastly, as they close, what things are they looking to confirm their interest before they're ready to jump ahead? So this is how it looks like if I try to visualize it. Again, possibly not the most perfect visualization, but here you can see, right? Someone could read a blog and then from there read another blog and then maybe jump on a sales call and then from there maybe they go into demo. So every customer is different, but this specific customer in this example here, maybe they come in through a referral, they watch a video, they jump on a sales call, and then they download the guide. So your goal is you need to be able to map out all of these possible touch points in your sales strategy so that you create all of the right assets. Not only that, you also want to have the right call to action so that you can move people from, let's say, referral to the video or to something else in a smooth way. And not only do you have the call to actions, get them to move up, but you also need to capture the right information so that you know that they have moved up in their decision-making process. Because you can't perform sales-related activities if you are not able to qualify or identify that your leads are where your leads are in the decision-making process. Make sense? Because you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to have sales reps speaking to people who are, already, let's say, in the decision stage, and your sales rep is talking to them about the problem and what it might look like and talking about all the different solutions. They've already made their decision. So you need to have reps who understand where the customers are in their decision-making process so they can either cut to the chase, or if they need to educate more, then necessarily do that education if they have to. So generally, before I jump into the template, the transition between the stages usually happen for two things. So one is when specific things have happened, like if a customer has taken a certain action, or if you know something about the customer. So this is why the call to action piece that I talked about and also the capture of information piece that I talked about is very important. So here I want to show you this template. And you can get a copy of this as well. But this here is mapped out with an example. So make a copy of this template and then you can start fresh and you can build your own strategy. But what it is basically, the awareness, consideration, decision, and close. I'm not going to repeat that, but in and how you will use this template, the note section, this is just to remind you what those stages mean. Pain points. So this is where you start. So if a customer is in the awareness stage, what are their pain points? What are their motivations, right? So for example, it might be, I have a fever, I want to get rid of this pain and discomfort. I'm frustrated, I'm worried, right? If they are in the consideration stage, they're looking for a cure that best works for them. They're driven to take action. They may be confused. Maybe they're uncertain about different treatment options. In the decision stage, maybe they're looking for the most effective supplement. Maybe they're overwhelmed. In the close stage, they're confident, but they are concerned that it might not be effective. So the questions are really reflective of their motivations and pain points. And this is the important part. This will inform how you decide to address their questions, what touch points you create, what assets you put into it. So in the question stage, the first thing to do with this template is, now that you've identified their pain point and motivations, what questions are they asking in each of those stages? Generally, again, remember the word generally because some exceptions apply to the rule. In the awareness stage, a customer is typically asking what is questions. What could be causing this? What are symptoms of this? What is a flu, right? In the consideration stage, now that they know what is, they are starting to think about how do I kind of thing. Like, how do I treat a flu? How do I boost my immune system? How do I treat flu without using unnatural medications? In the decision stage, they're thinking about vendors. So it's usually who is the best kind of questions, right? It might not directly be manifested that way, but the examples here you see is, what do I need to know when I'm considering nutritional supplements? How do I select the right supplement that's right for me, that addresses the who is the best kind of thing, right? How do different supplements compare against each other? And, in the close stage is typically product related questions or service related questions. How much do it cost? Are there guarantees? What if I don't see results? Those kind of things. So now that you know their questions, then you can think, okay, what are the assets that I'm creating? What are those touch points? Maybe I'm creating a blog. Maybe I'm creating a video. Maybe it's a workshop. Maybe it's an infographic. Maybe it's a demo call, right? So obviously certain tools, certain channels, certain touch points will be more effective than others, depending on what question you're trying to address, depending on who your customer is, and depending on how they're looking for those answers. Make sense? So generally, as an example, if you're addressing what is questions, it's usually light touch. It's usually things like blogs, info sessions, basic things, right? If you're going into consideration, it's usually more hands-on. They need more guidance, more tutorials. So it's maybe a video, maybe it's a workshop, could be also a blog. In the decision stage, as they're comparing vendors, it may be an infographic, it may be a comparison sheet, it may be, let's say a video, maybe it's a testimonial, who knows? And then in the close stage, it's your product page, your pricing page, your website, maybe it's your sales call, whatever it is. What is helpful here that I have included as well is you can also think about what is your quote unquote lead magnet. And what is a lead magnet and how do you use it? A lead magnet is basically something that you offer in the content that you put out at those stages. And what you offer here is you offer it with the intention that it allows you to capture the customer's information in exchange so that you can identify that they're at that stage. Make sense? So for example, a lead magnet over here could be a self-diagnosis tool. Fill out this online quiz with your symptoms and we'll email you your results to let you know if you have a cold or flu. Let's say if you're trying to identify if people are looking for supplements, maybe it's like download this recipe for home remedy for flu, right? Or download this 5-day smoothie recipe, right? And in this case here, if you're identifying if they're actively looking for vendors, maybe you offer like, let's say a free health consultation session. So think about how you will capture some of the information so that you know where your customers are in those decision-making stages. The common question that I often get in and around lead magnets is people ask like, most customers know that you're trying to get their email or contact info, and they are hesitant to provide that because they know that if they do provide that, then they will receive a lot of spam. That really is dependent on what you send out to them after you get that email, and also dependent on how you ask for the email. Number one, people will willingly give you the email if they perceive that whatever you are giving them in exchange is of clear value. So if you are just doing like, hey, fill out the survey or create an account, no reason kind of thing, and you ask for the email, then some people will be hesitant to do that. But if there is something substantial and if you're giving something of real value, then you should be comfortable asking for an email at a minimum because they will be very willing to provide that. It doesn't have to be an email. Maybe it's something else, right? Maybe you ask for them to fill out, let's say, their phone number or fill out their name, whatever you want to do. But generally, email is best because then you can start to track their behavior and associate it to a specific account. And then the second thing is what you send to them after. Obviously, once you get the email, some people will jump to sending what they call kind of email marketing campaigns. Some of them are triggered, some of them are automatic. But your goal is to make sure that if you do the right segmentation, again, like you won't be able to do this perfectly at the start. So don't jump to it too quickly because you need to have the right level of segmentation in order to communicate with customers such that you won't end up spamming them with irrelevant information, right? So if you segment in your mailing list that people that come in through, let's say, this lead magnet, downloading this guide, they're at this stage, they want to receive this kind of content, then absolutely fine for you to send that kind of content and they won't unsubscribe. But if you send the same content to everyone on your mailing list, then that's where people start to feel that, this is not for me, it's not relevant for me, and then they unsubscribe. Cool. So related to the lead magnet and the assets that you're creating, then there are two things that you're also considering. So the two things is, number one is your desired outcomes. what are you trying to communicate to the customer in and around those stages? So for example, in the awareness stage, you are trying to attract potential qualified customers. In the consideration stage, maybe you're trying to get them to see you as a thought leader or expert. And then in the decision stage, maybe you want them to speak to a sales rep. And then maybe in the close stage, you want them to try the product and see some results. And depending on your objectives, again, like most companies will probably follow a similar trend, but depending on your objectives, you will do some things differently. So for example, in the close stage, if you want people to try the product, maybe it's a good idea to send them a sample, right? For example, if you want them to see you as a thought leader and expert, then you know that you need to highlight your either credentials or case studies, testimonials, or reviews. So you want to make sure that you are cognizant with building that into the content that you're creating, depending on the channel that you're using and the stages that you're at. Call to action, same applies. If someone is reading a blog, trying to learn about what they have, and you say buy now as your call to action, then you come across as being pushy, right? So depending on where they're at in their journey, it makes sense to you to meet them with the right call to action as well. Maybe it's read more or learn more over here. Maybe it's download this recipe. Maybe it's book a consultation. Maybe it's subscribe now, order sample, whatever. And obviously, as you're collecting your information, you want to also know, like, what do you need from them in order to advance? So for example, if you want to send them more marketing information, you want to collect their email. So obviously ask for the email as they download the recipe, right? Maybe this self-diagnosis tool, if you don't need anything here, you don't need to ask for anything, right? If you want to book a time with them, you need to get their phone number, you need to get their schedule, a date and a time. If you want them to order a sample, maybe you take their mailing address, or if you want them to subscribe, then you're gonna get their credit card or bank info. Make sense? From there, you can also assign probabilities. Obviously, the challenge with probabilities here is it's entirely thumb in the air at this point. You're making rough guesses, but obviously as you start to execute, then you can correct and adjust and get closer to what real probabilities look like. And based on probabilities, you can have targets. So like these numbers here are just pure examples. They are not matching. But let's say if you know that your conversion is, let's say 15% over here, then you know that, oh, I need X amount of contacts. And from there, that will result in X many people coming into the kind of decision stage. Make sense? So once you've mapped this out, once you've created this template with an understanding of what your customers' questions are, what you can do to answer those questions, what kind of channels, what assets. Again, channels, for example, let's say if you're going after millennials, maybe you find that, oh, videos on TikToks are better. Sorry, if you're going after, let's say, Gen Zs, or if you're going after millennials, maybe it's Facebook, right? So different channels work better depending on what touch point you're building, what asset, what content, and also how you're addressing the question. Then you can create the launch plan. So from this here, you can see the example is the launch plan is, oh, I need to probably from this create 6 long-form blog posts. I need 4 landing pages. I need a workshop. I need to have a script for my assessment session. I need a landing page with details on the supplement. I need a payment page. And once you know what assets you're creating, you can again assign your call to actions to them. And you can decide, okay, what's the follow-up process? Once they've taken that call to action, what do? Do you email them to welcome them? Do you send a drip email campaign? Do you send them a post-workshop email with more resources? Whatever it may be. And once you have these, then you can create an implementation timeline. So this here is a very rough example, but you can map out, okay, what are the activities that you're doing? What channels? In this case, you can see I'm doing some outbound prospecting. I have certain targets, and then I'm testing this over this period of time. Maybe this is an event that I'm going at. Maybe these are partners that I'm trying to reach out to. Maybe I'm running some ads. Maybe I'm guest blogging. Maybe I'm doing some workshops, what have you. So I hope this kind of helps you think about how you can map it out. And once you've done this, then this will become the foundation of your marketing plan, but also your sales plan. Because once you have this, obviously you know what assets marketing can create. And then number 2, you can tie them into what we call triggers that help you identify if someone is either a marketing qualified lead or a sales qualified lead. And then from there, then you will know how to get your salespeople involved with the people depending on what stages they're in. So going back to this, once you have it, then the next step is to build and test those funnels. So you'll start to create funnel after funnel, and you'll see, do people drop off? Do people convert? And then that's where you can go into, what I talked about before, where you look at these funnels, you look at percentage in terms of how people convert, and you look at how long people stay in those stages. An example over here you can see is we're going to run a campaign, Facebook ads. From there, people read let's say a blog post or case study. If they don't, we retarget them. If they do, we want to get them to speak to someone from the team, and then from there sign up for an event. Even if they don't speak to someone from the team, maybe you can try to get them signed up to an event anyways, and then from there we add them to the mailing list. And then you follow up, right? After you add them to mailing list, maybe you have an email sequence, another pitching sequence. And then again, if they drop off the list at any point of time, maybe you sign them up for another event, or you bring them to an application page. But that's just an example of kind of what a real funnel might look like. So if you are building a funnel, my first piece of advice is don't try to do everything from scratch. Again, same like pricing. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Start by looking for what is already out there in the market. If you have already done the pricing exercise where you mystery shop your competitor, then you have a good starting point. But if not, this is what it looks like. The traditional way of building a funnel is generally most people will design, plan, think about what they think the conversion looks like. And then from there, they write the copy, they create the content. Maybe they hire a copywriter, and then they make the ads, they build the ads, they think about what it's going to look like, the images, the assets. Maybe they create the website if they don't already have one. They hire a designer, they build a website, hire a developer, create follow-up email and drip campaigns. All in all, very slow, very expensive. What I recommend is start by mystery shopping. Go out there, find a successful funnel, actually go through the process of buying your competitor's product if you can, product or service. Find what works and just build from there, okay? So we talked a bit about direct and indirect competitors in a different video, but just going to give you a quick refresher in case you forgot. So a direct competitor is someone who's doing the exact same thing that you're doing, but there may be other competitors that are also going for your for your customers, similar budget or attention. So another example that I can think of that's not related to the one I gave before is, let's say if you want to launch an escape room business, a direct competitor are other similar concept stores. An indirect competitor is a movie theater, a bowling alley, a VR store, right? There are also other forms of entertainment involving group activities. So once you've identified your competitors, then it's not that I'm asking you to plagiarize what they're doing, but model what they're doing, right? Copy and mimic what is appropriate. If certain things are inappropriate, then of course adjust, omit, change the verbiage if you need to. But basically, use what is available, use a similar kind of imagery, similar kind of color scheme if it matches what you think your corporate colors are and your brand messaging, and kind of the same messaging as well, the verbiage that they use. Obviously, of course, only if they're speaking to the same target customer. If they're speaking to a different target customer, then that's a slightly different story. But yeah, if you imagine if you're doing this, and if you're a customer and you're going through the process of looking for options, realize that at a basic level, this means that you are not too different from them, and that's actually a good thing, because it means that you've already skipped over all of the basic testing. You're not making assumptions around what will work, what won't work. You already have a base level of, I know roughly that this will work, and then you can optimize from it. This is a funny example. Like these are two different companies. One is Vodafone. I think the other one is, what is it? I don't remember the other company, but these are two same ads that were ripped out from the same magazine. And you can see it's like almost the same image. They're also promoting and focusing on the iPhone. Some of the words are slightly similar, although it's a bit different as well. So think about what you can mimic, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? And then lastly, is now that you have created those assets and funnels that look or look similar to your competitors, they don't necessarily have to be ads. They could even just be, let's say, the sales call, let's say the events that you run, or let's say if you do trade shows, like how does your booth present? If you're already looking similar to your competitor, then the next step is to look at where they get their customers and go after the same places. Because if your competitors are not advertising in certain platforms, it may or may not mean that you will find success there. But for example, if your competitors are not on TikTok, maybe that is intentional because TikTok is not a good place to convert customers. Who knows? Maybe there are exceptions to the rule again. Maybe your your competitors aren't addressing Gen Zs and you want to address Gen Zs, therefore you will actually advertise on TikTok. So again, there are exceptions to the rule, but start first by looking at how your competitors get their traffic and go to the same places that they are being seen, right? So these tools that you can see here, sorry, I didn't talk about the tools before, but ClickFunnels optimize the unbounds. They allow you to basically drag and drop and create visual landing pages that are quite easy to create. So that's like a simple version of a website. These ones, similar SEMrush, you can go to those websites, put in a competitor's website and see where they're getting, where their traffic comes from. Let me try and see if I can find one that is suitable. Let's take an example over here. And I'll try to use a bigger company because usually if it's a small competitor, then there won't be a lot of information about them. But let's say I'm trying to create, let's say I'm trying to sell glasses. What's the Warby Parker website? Here we go, Warby Parker, a Canadian website. If we search, these tools like SimilarWeb, SEMrush, there are a few other ones as well. They actually show you where they get their traffic from, what keywords they use, how the site is performing. So it looks like the Canadian website probably has too little data. Let me see if I can look at the American website. Let's try that again. But here you can see similar sites. You can also look at other competitors. It shows you their traffic. It shows you where the traffic is coming from. It shows you what their audience demographic looks like. You can see audience interest, keywords. If they have competitors, this will be displayed here. You can even see ads as well. I don't know if you need a paid account to do that, but let's take a look. So this shows how they get their traffic: organic search, paid search, social, referrals, whatnot. What are inbound keywords? What companies refer to the website? This one are display ads. Where do they run their ads? Outgoing links, you know, where do they send people to after people visit the website? Oh, even shows you what tools they use. Doesn't show you some example of ads, but you can even do that on Facebook. Let me see, Facebook ad library. So this is crazy powerful. So I'll show you. And I know a lot of these are more marketing centric, but it also applies on the sales side of things. The tools, obviously, with a sales specific funnel, you won't be using these tools because there's no easy way to see it. You just have to actually go and buy a competitor's product or service in order to try to understand how they sell you, what they say to you, right? So you mimic those same things as well. Let's say all ads here, but let's say Warby Parker. Here, you can see the ads that they run. You can even dive in and see let me see, Warby Parker, the company. Oh, it looks like they don't run any Facebook ads. But say Hitspace. So Hitspace, the app, you can see who they're advertising to. Now see ad details. So you can look at what the ad looks like. You can look at the different versions of the ad that they have. And you can even, I don't remember where, but see who they're targeting as well. I do not remember how to pull that up. But there's a way to see who they're targeting as well. So anyways, the point is, if you are going after the audience of your main competitors, of the big competitors that get a lot of traffic, and if you're advertising in the same places, if your ads look and feel the same as them, it wouldn't be a surprise if some of them actually end up converting to your product or service instead of their product or services, right? So basically, this allows you to steal away some of their customers, so to speak. If they're already successful doing it, then generally you should find some success as well at a minimum. So to summarize that, find a good successful funnel, buy your product or service, and then copy or mimic it, the look, the feel, and then advertise in the same places. Cool. So yeah, that's a last tip that I'll kind of leave you with in terms of building funnels. But I'd say more importantly, like really understand based on your customers, what their user journey looks like. And this template will be kind of your go-to place for it. So map this out. And then from there, you can decide like, okay, does it make sense for us to do that funnel building process and copy the same funnels, or do I need to adjust certain things in the funnels because my customers are asking different questions depending on my product or service or depending on my target audience, right?